This is a letter that's been sent out, but I think I'll go read it to you because it's very interesting. For attention of Andrew Bailey, Chief Executive, Financial Conduct Authority. Dear Mr. Bailey, UK PLC's shadow banking cartel, fake accounts from British and Scottish banks. How many years have I been alerting the PRA and the FCA and the Bank of England and Treasury about the wholesale fraud going on in Britain with fake accounts being set up by the Scottish and UK banks? None of you seem to have been taking a blind bit of notice. A matter of hours ago, USA Wells Fargo Bank have been fined a paltry $3 billion for fake accounts. The true figure behind their theft are probably over $1 trillion. They were featuring in the Vavaso fraud from 19 years ago, which SFO have successfully covered up for that entire time. And the 233 million seed capital stolen money is still missing and unaccounted for. Reason? Shadow accounts. Not on ledger. FSA illegal repatriated that money at the SFO's request to USA in December 2002. Remember, Mr. Bailey, that appears to be why you won't help our case now. You've ring-fenced it because of the FSA did. No doubt this expose will now hit across the pond for Blighty. Britain, once great, is now a fraudster's paradise, thanks to FCA and PRA and Bank of England no-touch regulation. Shadow banks and shadow courts go hand in hand. Fact 1. We have banks opening up fake accounts in innocent civilians' names without the authority or mandatory signature. Many of those banks are companies with no banking licence, e.g. Lloyds Bank International Limited, now removed from COS House to hide the evidence of billions stolen per merger. 2. We have courts operating commercially and illegally, opening up fake claims without a fee which have never been defined or sealed or issued or served. Ask the RCJ about the fake claim number of my sister's case due to be heard on Wednesday 26th of February 2020. Quote, reference QB 2017 005733 and HQ 17X03712. Never issued or served or even defined by Bank of Scotland before it became a bank. 3. Banks and courts are commercial partners in crime who the corrupt and complicit Land Registry send their millions of victims to go to court for their execution and divestment of their homes. Graham Farrar, ex-CEO of Land Registry, is now working his evil as head of Dorset Borough Council, running shadow magistrates and adult courts, etc., etc. Where is all the stolen money gone? If you want to clear a court bench with judges, shout out Canon Law 2057. Watch them run out the door where they came from. One man done it on Tuesday and got thrown out of the doors of Bolton for speaking the truth. Look it up and you'll find some very interesting stuff in that Canon Law 2057. What kind of human being poses for a picture with a corpse? A wanker, that's what kind. Hang on. So Jeffrey Epstein owned a painting of G.W. Bush with 2 paper airplanes and 2 collapsed Jenga towers. Obey. FFF the system. Yeah, I agree. Around 100 years ago, women won the right to vote. They did this by blocking roads, chaining themselves to railings, getting arrested, causing disruption and being a bloody nuisance. The tactics worked. They won. Keep on rebelling. You mean to tell me humans have energy resources such as solar power, hydroelectric power, biofuels, wind power, geothermal energy, and they kill each other over oil? If an egg is broken by outside force, life ends. If broken by inside force, life begins. Great things always begin from the inside. Child Protection Services, because it sounds better than sex trafficking. Boarded empty flat. What's wrong with this country? Serious. The Tories have not paid off any of their national debt. They have doubled it to 2.09 trillion. Not only have they also borrowed more money than every other UK government in history combined, they have frittered this money away in tax cuts to big business and billionaires. Half the FTSE top 10 companies paid no corporation tax last year. Tory millionaires hiding cash offshore. We don't want to know. Just a reminder, I belong to no one. I am owned by no one. I answer to no one. If I give you my time, it's a privilege, not an obligation. F your evolution, Darwin. I'm not related to those idiots. Remember Jason Vale? After being diagnosed with cancer for the second time, Jason Vale of Queens, New York, was done with conventional treatments. After all, he'd realised they were just killing him. After studying alternative medicine, Jason found that apricot seeds have anti-cancer effects on the body, and after using them, his cancer disappeared. It has to be the bitter-tasting apricot seeds there, just to let you know. With this, Jason took to selling the seeds online to help other cancer victims. The FDA sued Jason and he served 5 years in prison, not because the seeds didn't work, but because Jason used the word cure, just like the Cancer Act of the UK. Water harvesting in ancient India far advanced than present. Here is how. Were floods and drought regular occurrences in ancient India? Of course a big yes. But ancient Indians implemented effective solutions to tackle these. Every region exploited its own traditional water harvesting techniques, harvesting every drop of rainwater. Water harvesting has been practiced since the time immemorial, which also finds mention in our ancient scriptures. Hindu religion's texts mention about Narad Muni visiting different kingdoms on earth and inquiring about the state of water bodies and whether the water was enough for the residents as well as animal population. The concept of water conservation was imbibed, I think that should be embedded, into the culture fabric. Also, revering water as a goddess. Such was the harmony between humans and Mother Nature. Recently, I came across a video of the South Indian region wherein water gradually filled up and flowed through a dry river base, and scores of local residents bowing down and offering prayer to the approaching water. Revering the water goddess is not a new tradition, but a legacy passed on to succeeding generations since antiquity. Today, women in drought-prone areas walk several kilometres to collect drinking water or queue for water before taps and hand pumps. Farmers surrender to nature's fury, unable to get a good yield, leading to debts and suicides. Engineers and architects of modern India are designing innovative techniques to tackle these situations, but neither are these techniques effectively implemented, nor are there few implemented technologies fully successful. Chanakya's Arthashanta mentions volumes about India's ancient water harvesting techniques and irrigation system. Chanakya lived around 1500 BC as per Vedavi Ayers, The Chronology of Ancient India. A scholar, Chanaka, became the patron of Chundagupta, an illegitimate child of Nara king, helping him become king of Magadha around 1516 BCE, after getting the last tyrannical Nanda king killed. The Mauryan Empire was one of the largest of empires in ancient Bharat, with boundaries stretched to Assam in east, Himalayas in north, Balochistan and Afghanistan in the west, and touched the southern borders. Arashdashna described in detail about water channels, dams and bunds for irrigation, including water storage and supply systems on the vast Mauryan Empire. These were well managed and subject to stringent rules and regulations. Arathasta by Chanukya mentions how different tax slabs were levied on cultivators based on type of water used for crops. For example, for water drawn from natural sources, tax levied was 25% theft. Tax is theft on produced. For water drawn manually from storage, it was 20%. For water drawn by bullocks, it was 25%. And for water diverted to crop fields through channels, it was 33%. Tax is absolute theft, and they were doing it back then as well, thieving from us. Exemptions were given to those who improved their irrigation facilities. Beside cultivators and general residents were allowed to build water bodies like reservoirs, bunds and tanks, for which the owner enjoyed tax exemption for a particular time period. They could even sell or mortgage the water storage and supply systems they owned. A set of water rules were applicable, and those who violated the rules were subject to severe punishments, including even death. For example, groups who broke up a tank full of water or a reservoir was awarded death penalty, causing damage to neighbours' land, parks, gardens, etc. Due to overflow of tank water, also to punishment of the owner. Do such laws exist in India today? For the smallest or biggest of offenders of any kind, justice gets delayed for years together with and remains pending in courts. Journalism is not a crime. Australian MP says charges against Assange must be dropped after visiting him in UK prison. Continued persecution of the WikiLeaks co-founder is a crazy situation. Australian lawmaker George Christensen told RT, adding that Julian Assange did not commit any crime aside from running foul of US elites. Christensen, a member of the Libyan National Party of Queensland, questioned the integrity of legal process against Assange, who is now facing the possibility of extradition to the US over unlawfully obtaining and disclosing classified documents related to the national defence. The journalist was hauled out of the Ecuadorian embassy in London after his asylum was revoked in April 2019 and has been locked up at the maximum security Belmarsh prison ever since. We have an Australian citizen who is a subject to our laws, extradited by one foreign nation into another on charges in accordance with the laws of the country he did not even set foot to. That is a crazy situation, Christensen said, after visiting Assange at Belmarsh, south of London. Live updates. Assange's father and legal team talk to press ahead of extradition hearing, and there's a video. Again, as usual, links are in description. The WikiLeaks founder has been indicted by a US court on 18 felony charges, mostly regarding violations of the Espionage Act after he leaked classified data that exposed US misdemeanors during the Iraq and Afghan wars. Assange faces 5 to 10 years in prison for each charge if convicted. Lawyers representing the WikiLeaks founder as well as his father, are expected to hold a press conference in Paris. The legal team will address the press just 4 days ahead of the scheduled extradition hearing at Woolwich Crown Court in London. Earlier, John McDonnell, Shadow Chancellor, paid a visit to Julian Assange at Belmarsh Prison, becoming the very first parliamentarian to visit the whistleblower in jail. Assange spent 7 years at the Ecuadorian embassy in London after skipping bail and asking for political asylum in 2012 to evade possible extradition to the United States. The whistleblower was forced out of the embassy last year and is being held at a high-security prison in London pending an extradition trial. Watch harrowing footage of 2007 Baghdad killings projected onto UK Parliament wall in protest against Assange's extradition. Campaigners have projected the footage of an American airstrike on Iraqi civilians originally exposed by WikiLeaks onto the Parliament building in London to protest against the proposed extradition to the US of Julian Assange. Clips from the infamous 2007 footage were projected onto Westminster Palace, where both houses of Parliament are located. The same video was projected on the wall of Belmarsh Maximum Security Prison in London, where the WikiLeaks co-founder is awaiting his US extradition trial. The images of the building's walls included photos of the activist, along with slogans like "Don't extradite Assange" and "Journalism is not a crime." Politician believes disabled people can be paid for less because they don't understand money. And that's a picture of the sick, satanic, evil bitch. A Conservative British politician might as well resign now that her statement about disabled people have gone viral. Sally Ann Hart made the shocking claim that disabled people should be paid less than their peers because they don't understand money. Not only does Hart advocate for discrimination in the workforce, she believes that people should be scammed out of a salary if they don't have the ability to understand exactly how to do it for themselves. Hart is not a supporter of people with learning difficulties. She argued during an event that they should be taken advantage of because they don't understand money. Well, if she stays in power, shame on us all. Labour peer abused me at 15. Will someone please tell me why he's never faced a court? Victim allegedly abused by Lord Janner breaks silence to say decision not to prosecute beggars belief. It's because the CPS is the Criminal Paedophile Protection Services. Hamish Bailey says Lord Janner abused him during hide and seek in 1983. Father of three, 47, was a 15-year-old resident of a children's home at the time. Just like Ken Clark likes to go visiting children's home to rape the children. He says failure to prosecute the peer for a fourth time is complete travesty. CPS boss Alison Saunders, or paedophile protector she should be known, said Janner was unfit to plead due to dementia. Utter bullshit, but he's okay to go to Parliament and get his money, isn't he? A father allegedly abused by Lord Janner has called for the top legal office who decided against prosecuting him to step down. Alison Saunders, Director of Public Prosecutions and Protect the Paedophile Protection Squad, concluded that dementia made the 86-year-old unfit to plead. Last night, one of the 9 victims who have been lined up to give evidence against the former Leicester West MP waived his right to anonymity to say the decision beggars belief and claimed it points to an establishment cover-up, which is exactly what it is. Appeal Court rules Islamic marriage invalid in UK. A court has reversed a judgment from 2 years ago which found that a couple who had an Islamic wedding ceremony could legally divorce. The High Court ruled in 2018 that the couple's Islamic nikah ceremony fell within English marriage laws, but a court of appeal has now said it was an invalid, non-legal ceremony. Judges said that the fact that they intended to have a further civil ceremony meant they must have known their Islamic marriage had no legal effect in the UK. The Attorney General appealed against the original court decision. The case involved the divorce of Nasreen Akhtar and Mohammed Shabazz Khan, who have 4 children. The couple had an Islamic wedding ceremony in a West London restaurant in 1998 in the presence of an imam and about 150 guests, but no civil ceremony subsequently took place, despite Mrs. Akhtar's repeated raising the issue. Parliament blows £28,000 on sofas and chairs for MPs and staff. The swanky furniture appeared in the atrium of Portcullis House, one of the main buildings of the parliamentary estate where MPs often meet with constituents and others. Parliament has blown £28,000 on swanky furniture for MPs and staff in Portcullis House. New sofas, chairs and tables appeared in the Westminster office building on Monday morning in place of a water feature which was recently removed. A cabinet minister has slammed the parliamentary authority for shelling out almost £28,000 of your money on furniture for the atrium at Portcullis House. It is understood that the furniture bill amounted to £27,766, excluding VAT. So you can put another, it's going to be 30-odd thousand, isn't it? With the funds taken from an existing budget, 8 armchairs worth more than £1,000 each from manufacturer Orange Box are among the new pieces of furniture. One piece included 4 teal sofas, 6 tan leather chairs and several coffee and side tables. Cabinet Minister Theresa Coffey criticised the new furniture, writing on Twitter, "I see House of authorities have brought in sofas and luxury armchairs to the atrium in Portcullis House. I'm not skinflint, but really?" And the reason they don't give a shit about how much it costs is because you and I pay it for these scumbags. Utter thieving scumbags. Furious Italy tells EU change the rules or we'll do the same as the British. Matteo Salvini has warned European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen Italy could be the next country to quit the EU unless the bloc gets a radical overhaul, and warned if it came to a choice between his country and the EU, Brussels would be the inevitable loser. And he followed his remarks up with warm words of praise for the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, tipping him to make a success of Britain's departure from the EU. Mr Salvini, leader of the right-wing Lega Party, has struck a defiant stance in the wake of the Italian Senate's decision to allow him to be prosecuted for forcing immigrants to stay on board a rescue ship when he was Interior Minister last year. A post from the subsequent resigned after a spat of Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte. Man shoots his pet in the face because the dog is always too happy. Well, you know what I'd do? I'd shoot that thing in the face. A 7-month-old puppy was found by some hikers tied to a tree and left for dead in Greece. The poor thing had been shot in the face and it was his owner who did it. The man said the dog was too happy all the time and it annoyed him, so he thought his shotgun was the answer to this problem. The hikers quickly got ice to save the Greek stray, but the dog was on the verge of death. He had huge wounds in his face that needed immediate care. It would take many surgeries and operations to reconstruct his face, but ice kept his spirits up the entire time. Ice remained in the shelter for a long time after recovery as people continued to pass over him. But one family heard about him and had to have him. He's now in the UK living it up in his new home with people who'd never hurt him for the world. The video is a bit graphic in spots, but totally worth it for the ending. Coronavirus could start to empty shelves in some US stores by mid-April. More scare tactics. Target Corp and Best Buy Co. Inc. could be among the first US companies to take a direct hit from coronavirus outbreak as concerns grow about distribution to supply chain networks in China. Although current inventories are strong at most of the nation's big box retailers, analysts from Wells Fargo warn that shoppers could start seeing empty shelves by early mid-April, We believe the time to start worry about the supply chain risk is here, the report said. Almost 60 million Chinese workers remain quarantined in their homes and others are staying away from work, afraid of catching the virus, which can be treated with colloidal silver, oregon oil, loads of things. Afraid of catching the virus from crowded factories. So far, there have been more than 40,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus and 1,000 deaths. 85,000 protests British gas top-up meter charge that is making the poorest go hungry. The filthy, evil British Gas face an outpouring of protests after hiking the £1 minimum top-up on a pay-as-you-go meter to £5, money that some people simply don't have. But they thought, screw them, they can starve or freeze because we don't give a shit. And another thing that pisses me off about these all the gas electric phone services is the line rental or ground meter rental for the gas electric. Utter bullshit. It's just another way for thieving offers. Almost 100,000 people have signed a petition to reverse a change to British gas meters that has hit some of the poorest families in the UK. The energy giant hiked its £1 minimum top-up fee for a pay-as-you-go meter to £5 on January 1st. A change it blames on rising admin costs. Utter bullshit and lies. But the Labour MP, Preet Carl Gill, warns that the change has had a grim impact on some of the most precarious people in society and accuses the firm of the height of social irresponsibility. Now, more than 85,000 people have signed Mr. Gill's petition on the 8 Degrees website. And that, if you click on the link, that's the link to it. If you want to sign it, I suggest we'd all do. Calling for the charge to be reversed. The petition quotes one customer nicknamed Daniel, who says, I use a prepay meter because I can't afford a direct debit. £5 may not sound a lot, but when you're scrapping together coppers just to save money, it can be the difference between a hot meal or going hungry. Serco, the biggest company most people have never heard of, given a 200 million contract to run 2 more immigration removal centres. There are no removal centres, so that's a lie in itself. Controversy hit firm that runs Yarl's Wood to take over Gatwick centres from G4S. A private firm that runs an immigration removal centre dogged on allegations of abuse has been awarded a £200 million contract by the Home Office to run 2 much more such centres. And I believe it's William that actually owns Serco, by the way. Serco, which runs Yarwood's detention centre in Bedfordshire, would take over Brook House and Tinsley House immigration removal centres near Gatwick Airport from May 2020 for 8 years, the Home Office has said. £200 million for 8 years' work. It's not bad, is it? As recently as last week, Yarwoods has caught up in a controversy after a Nigerian woman told a court hearing she was thrown to the floor like a bag of cement in an incident involving 11 Serco guards. Serco was severely criticised for its massive eviction of asylum seekers in Glasgow last year. Although the courts ultimately deemed the move was lawful, in 2015 a dossier for a decade of complaints about sexual abuse and mistreatment at Yarwoods was handed to MPs. And they said, we don't give a shit. Tory MPs to warn against rising fuel duty in budget. Backbenchers alarmed at plan under consideration to increase tax by about 2p a litre. Now let's just put this in perspective, shall we? If there was no VAT and no tax on it should be a gallon, but even on a litre of fuel, it would be 17 pence a litre. So these thieving bastards steal over £1 off of every litre. A group of Tory MPs is planning to warn the Treasury against mooted rise in fuel duty at the budget, amid wider alarm within the party that Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak are prepared to raise taxes on 11th of March. Let's not forget that Rishi Sunak is another banker. Yes, banker, not what you thought I said. Backbench MPs plan to write to the Chancellor calling for a fuel duty cut or freeze and highlighting Johnson's claim during the election campaign that he had no intention of raising fuel duty, which was repeatedly frozen during George Osborne's years as Chancellor. The plan under consideration is an inflation-linked rise of about 2p a litre, although this might not be implemented until next year. The Tories are worried that an increase in fuel duty would go down badly with voters outside cities who use their cars to get to work. It comes on top of other recent tax rising budget ideas about that appear to have come out of number 10 and 11. We need to lock the lot of them up. They are all thieving, corrupt wankers, every single one of them. Daily. Garda carried out murder, but force helped cover it up. Garda helped cover up the murder of civilian by a member of the force, it has been claimed. Using dial privilege, independent TD Claire Daly said that an officer witnessed a college shoot a member of the public but was told by senior officers to say he was not present during the incident. Speaking during leaders' questions, Miss Darley alleged the Garda witness wrote to Taoiseach Enda Kenny last year, and his complaint was passed on to the independent review panel set up by Judicial Minister Francis Fitzgerald to investigate around 300 cases of alleged Garda corruption. And we investigated ourselves and found we'd done nothing wrong. 338 children under the care of Kent County Council went missing in 2019. I guess the paedophiles at work at Kent County Council had a lot of children to play with then, didn't they? More than 300 children under the care of Kent County Council were missing last year. A total of 226 Kent youngsters and 72 unaccompanied asylum seeker children disappeared at least once between January 1st and December 31st, 2019. Kent County Council's corporate parenting, see corporate, they're a corporation, that's why it's corporate, parenting panel was yesterday told 63% of the 338 missing children aged under 18 said they temporarily left their home to seek contact with friends, family and spouses. Kent's Young People's Council, who's attended the meeting, said most of them aren't actually missing, but instead taking time off from being at the home to socialise, such as going to a house party. Councillor John Burden, Labour MP, so he's probably a pedo, a member of the committee, said, "We want to know why children in care go missing because we care and want to make sure you're safe and secure so the paedophiles know where to find you." He added, "If we adults can go missing for a pint, then they can go missing to see their parents." KCC officer said a child is often recorded missing when there has been a loss of communication between the youngster and authority or carer, even if only for a short duration of time. The missing KCC children, most of whom have since returned, represented just 13% of the total number of youngsters in Kent CC's care. The panel was told during a Maidstone County Hall public meeting earlier today. When comparing 2019 to 2018, the number of KCC children in care who have been missing at least once during the year dropped from 355 to 338. All 266 children have since returned, along with the majority of the asylum seeker youngsters, although a small number remain untraced. In other words, they've been used, abused, and are probably dead or being used as sex slaves. KCC's Director of Integrated Children's Services, Sarah Hammond, told the panel there are no unknown citizens, young people, but we do have a cohort of unaccompanied asylum-seeking children who can disappear very quickly. Tony Blair in US paedophile Jeffrey Epstein's Little Black Book. Oh, well, I'm shocked at Miranda for being in that book. Not at all. Tony Blair was listed in Jeffrey Epstein's Little Black Contacts book alongside a series of Britain's richest and most powerful people as being claimed. And they are, because I've seen it. The former Prime Minister was one of 301 British names and featured alongside Sir Richard Branson, Sir Mick Jagger, Prince Andrew and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson. Epstein was found dead in his cell, except it wasn't him, in a Manhattan jail where he was being held without bail, awaiting trial for allegedly abusing dozens of underage girls and as young as 14 in New York and Florida, and they were younger than 14 as well. The 66-year-old who denied the charges was found at 6:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, according to a statement from the Department of Justice. Officials hanged himself. He was facing up to 45 years behind bars on federal trafficking and conspiracy charges. Epstein had built up an astonishing list of more than 1,000 phone numbers and email addresses for hundreds of famous names on both sides of the Atlantic. There is no suggestion the names listed in the Little Black Book, which is now in the hands of the FBI, were involved in any wrongdoing or even met Epstein. Yes, they were, and yes, they did. Blow to Tory government as firefighters win back their pensions in court victory. Good, you scummy. In a landmark court victory that could have implications for public sector workers across the UK, the Fire Brigade Union beat the Tory government in a decision that entitles over 6,000 firefighters to return to their 2015 pension schemes. See, they steal everything and anything they can. That's all governments do. The theft magnets, that's all they are. The Employment Tribunal embarrassment for the government comes after a Court of Appeal ruling last December that its attacks on firefighters' pensions constituted unlawful age discrimination. In a shocking admission in July, the government disclosed that it had wasted £495,000. We paid that, but that's our money they spent of legal costs fighting to maintain discriminatory pension policy. The total annual cost of applying the rules across the public sector could be up to $4 billion that we have to pay because these corrupt bastards trying to rob everyone. The 6,000 firefighters who won today are members of the 1992 and 2006 Firefighters Pension Scheme and now entitled to be treated as if they have remained members on their origin pension scheme, with benefits including a retirement age of between 50 and 55. Matt Rack, FBU General Secretary, said, "Last Christmas we gave firefighters the gift of a victory in the courts. This year, firefighters can celebrate knowing that their union has secured their rightful retirement, a gift born of solidarity that proves that unions can achieve. The law has now changed and our FBU claimants will be entitled to return to their previous pension schemes. Legislation will need to be amended, but there can be no delay in implementing the remedy. Firefighters were robbed and they must be repaid." That's because all governments do is rob. They're just nothing but a bunch of thieving bastards, the lot of them. Katie Bourne's prostitutes, BBC, ITV and Evening Standard biased attack on John Huth. Mass public is the case of John Huth, Wimbledon Magistrates Court next week. Thanks to ITV, BBC, Evening Standard, we have a fraudulent prosecution of a 74-year-old John Huth brought into the mainstream. This is the first and most significant anti-corruption case in the last 15 years. Shall we say this millennium, being managed by equity lawyer Edward William Ellis as part of the mass remedy process of the Crown Lord Bishops and Royal Commission of the Equity Monarch Trusts. See blah 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 blah. Sussex police stole John Huth's farm. Sussex police gave Winston Leachman a firearms licence even though he had over 50 criminal convictions. Sussex police gave Leachman access to firearms. Just like every other police force in the country, not fit for purpose. Winston Leachman was caught impersonating an immigration lawyer during community service and had criminal convictions for mortgage fraud. Are we getting the picture? John Huth was ruined by Sussex police. The cops that did it want to be in prison, jail, the lot of them. Here we have the Sussex Police Crime Commissioner criminally prosecuting him for sending emails to her and visiting her office to try and get remedy of her stolen farm. Did you know seeking remedy in the UK is deemed a criminal offence against public servants? Why? because public servants are chosen for their incompetence and ability to deny remedy and are routinely guilty of treason. Well, treason, or grand treason, should I say, is still an executable offence. And if we started executing some of these bastards, you watch how quickly it changes. Links are in there if you want to read the full stories. Mirror. Colleen, I haven't had sex for 3 years. Well, if you want, I'm sure there's some willing to have a go at you. Ruby Stars tribute. Danny, my kind and loving Caroline. X reveals how tragic Love Island host helped him deal with his own mental trauma. Utter waste of paper. Kaz, I wanted to shoot myself. Ruby A. Dan's tearful confessions. I. School debt crisis cuts revealed. Shocking extent of fragile finances revealed in damning Ofsted research. 28% of council-run schools, secondary schools, are in the red. Almost half of heads surveyed say their school will be in debt by summer. Cutbacks to teachers and teaching assistants as class sizes increase. Computing, language, music, art and design are dropped from the curriculum. Watchdog reveals 70-hour weeks for staff and impact on young people. Government dismissed unrepresentative reports. Susie Dent on swearing, slang and throwing shade. Spilling the soya beans. The best plant-based milk for the planet revealed. I wouldn't say soy milk, definitely not. Tom Kerridge, I want to spoil my son without spoiling him. Huh? Last Tango in Halifax returns. Janet Street Porter, why wasn't PM waded in? Because he don't give a shit. Daily Fail. Arrogant, untrustworthy, childish David Dimbleby blasts PM amid licence fee row. BBC legend rips apart liars Boris. Parasites and Harry Parasite. Yes, we will ditch royal brand. Express. Engelbert therapy has reversed my darling wife's Alzheimer's. Damn, now she knows how many times I slept with other women. BBC and Number 10 urged to strike deal with just 100 days before over 75 perks ends. Scrapping free TV licence will lead to... It won't lead to chaos at all. It'll lead to everyone not bleeding paying the BBC anything, and that'll be the end of them, which is what needs to happen. Couple agreed to ditch royal brand. Telegraph revealed the carbon offsetting Wild West bullshit. Armani provocative outfits are kind of rape. MI6 recruiting teenagers to give it an edge in tech race. Elderly woman shot dead by Assad troops. Oh, I don't believe this sort of shit. Propaganda crap. The Guardian. Warning to teachers and doctors over terror referrals. Alzheimer's charity given 750 in NDA profits. How about we all just go out and get some coconut oil and start sticking that down your throat and reverse Alzheimer's naturally, eh? Should we do that? No, because they don't want you to know that, because that'd be too cheap a thing. Storms ahead. Britain braced for more days of rain, wind and floods. The utter scum. Agony for Smalling in Rome. Poisoner kills England ace's dog. FT. Tax office turns heat on rich families. Oh, piss off, that's more lies. HMRC cracks down on inheritance vehicles. Security unit eyes more than 1 trillion in assets. Yeah, right, we can steal some more. But, you know, who cares? They'll never do it. Hardliners set to tighten grip. Treasury yields hit all-time low as virus drives investors fight to safety. And finally, jeans for sale. Once worn, but they are too tight. £30 or near offer. I don't know who this dog is or why he is banned from this park, but he certainly seems like a lot of fun. If you see beer in this picture, you may have a problem. You spell one word incorrectly, and here comes a bitch from Facebook University. Last night my wife sent me a text saying she was in Casualty. When I got home I watched all 50 minutes of it. Never saw her once. She still hasn't come home yet. I'm starving. So how come there aren't any circuses around now? Because all the clowns got into politics.